This series is sponsored by Linode. Linode provides virtual servers that make it easy and affordable to host your own app, site, or project in the cloud. You can get $20 free on your new Linode account with the code HackerSploit20 or by clicking the link in the description. That is linode.com/HackerSploit. Welcome back to the Linux Essentials for Hackers series. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at file management and file manipulation in Linux. So let's get started. So I'm just going to open up my terminal here and let's just expand this and let's increase the font size so we can see what's going on. All right, so let's start off with a bit of directory navigation and understanding what files exist within a directory, right? So the first question any beginner to Linux has is when they're in the terminal is, how do I know where I am, or how do I know what directory I'm in, right? So they want to know where they actually exist in the Linux file system. So by default, if you are logged in as a user, that user is not the root user. So a normal user account, for example, I'm logged in as Alexis. So I'm going to be in my current home directory. Now you can confirm this by typing in pwd. All right, pwd means print current working directory or print working directory, and that is self-explanatory. It prints the current directory that you are in and that you will be working in, or any commands that you actually run will be executed within this directory, right? So I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it tells you I'm in the home Alexis directory. Now user accounts are usually sorted out this way. So the root account usually has its own folder in the root directory of the file system, of the Linux file system, whereas other users like Alexis here will be found within the home directory, and then furthermore their own individual directories based on their usernames, and this is where all their files will be stored. All right, which brings us to the next question, which is, how do I list the files within a particular directory? And this is very simple. We use the ls command, which means list. All right, so I'm going to hit enter, and this will list the files and the directories within the current directory, right? So I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it tells us within this current directory we have the desktop directory, the documents directory, downloads, etc., right? So this is the simple way of listing files. Now the ls command has the ability to be run with other arguments or commands or options that allow you to increase or to modify the way the output is or the way the files are displayed to you, right? So a quick example of this is by using the ls hyphen or -l command. All right, so this will list all the files and directories in this directory in the format of a list or a table, which makes it easier to read for users, right? So I'm going to hit enter, and immediately you can see it gives you vital information like the total right over here, the permissions, the ownership of these files and directories. You have the date modified and the name of the file of the files and directories. All right, so that is how to use ls in combination with another command. Now you can also get more output by combining the ls command with other options. So again, if we wanted to list all the files and directories that are currently in this working directory, I can use the a command, which essentially is an abbreviation for all. Now when I say all in the context of Linux, it means all hidden files, all files within this directory will be displayed. All right, so if I list the files again here, you can see that it only displays the files and directories that are visible to users. If we want to display all the files and directories, including hidden files and directories, we can say ls and we can say a. All right, and this again will give us all files and directories, including hidden files and directories. So you can see the hidden files in Linux have the dot or the full stop before the file name here. So again, the bash aliases file is a file that is used in configuration of your bash profile. So again, it allows you to configure aliases when working with bash. Again, so the hidden files in Linux typically are used for configuration of various system environment variables or various system tools, so on and so forth. We'll be working with this later on, and it will all make sense shortly. Now, the great thing about the list command is that I can use it in combination with the previous command. So if I wanted wanted to list this in a way that was much easier to read, I can say ls al, and this will list all the files and directories, including the hidden files and directories, in the format of a list or a table. And I hit enter, and there you are. You can see it displays all the files and directories in the form of a list here, and again it gives you information in regards to the ownership and the permissions, more of which we'll touch upon later on in the course. All right, so I'm just going to clear the terminal here, and let's take a look at the ls command a little bit more. All right, so let's say I wanted to actually list the files in a more readable format for users. So again, I can just type in ls L, and I can use the H command. All right, so if I hit enter, again this displays it in a much easier way for users to understand what's going on, and the context I'm referring to is more to do with the size. All right, so if I say ls L, you can see that the data here, or the size of the files, is in bytes. Right now, when we use the ls H, or the H, where the H stands for human readable format, you can see it displays the actual size in kilobytes. Much easier way for you to understand the sizes of files, etc, etc. All right, so let me just clear the terminal here, and let's take a look at one more command that we can use with ls, and that is if we wanted to show subdirectories. Right, so remember, when we use the ls command, it shows us the directories within this current working directory. But let's say we had other directories within, let's see, within pictures, right? So we could have other directories within pictures, or documents, or the downloads folder, etc. So again, we can say, if I wanted to list the subdirectories within the desktop folder, I can say ls L, and we'll use the capital R command. And this again means recursively. So we can then specify the folder we want, which is going to be desktop, or the directory we want. Again, it's going to be desktop, and we hit enter. And again, it will list for us the files that exist on the desktop, first of all. And again, it shows us that we have a directory called C and a txt file called todo.txt. All right, within the C folder, or the C directory, we have three files. We have a temp.c, we have a test binary, and a test.c file. So again, it's displayed to us what is on the desktop, and then what is in the directory C on the desktop. So again, it's used for recursive listing of files and directories and subdirectories that way. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Now let's talk about some directory navigation, all right, which is quite important here before we actually talk about file manipulation and copying files, etc. So as I said, we are currently in the home Alexis directory. Now, if I wanted to move a step back, or to move to a parent directory, I can say cd. All right, so cd will change directory to the actual home directory. So again, if I type in pwd, you can see it will not do anything. Now, if I wanted to go a step back, I can type in cd, and I can follow that yes, I can follow that up with 2 full stops, and that will take me a step back. And immediately on your bash shell, you'll be given the current directory that you're in now. So again, it's telling us we are in the home directory, and we can confirm this by typing in pwd. Right, so if we list the files within the home directory, you can see that the only directory that exists is the Alexis folder, and that's because that's the only user on the system. So let's take a step back, right? So I can take a step back, and I hit enter, and now we are currently in the root directory, the root file system directory for Linux, right? So again, I can list all the files in here, and I can hit enter, and as you can see, we are now in the root. This is the actual root directory of the Linux file system, not the root folder or the root user directory, just the root of the file system. So you can now see all the various folders that the Linux file system is comprised of. All right, so that is how to actually navigate a step back. Now, if I wanted to navigate into any one of these directories, I could say cd, and then I specify. Cd is an abbreviation for change directory, and I can specify the directory I want to move into. So I can say cd home, right? And again, that will take me into my home directory, and then I can list the files in here. And this tells me, oh, we have a directory called Alexis, and then I can say change directory into the directory Alexis, and that will take me into the the directory Alexis. All right, now I can also use the / to refer to a directory that is currently not in this particular directory. So let's say I wanted to move into the I wanted to move into the let's try the Etsy folder. I can say cd /Etsy, and this refers to a directory that is currently not in this directory but at the root at the root of the Linux file system. So I hit enter and that takes us into the Etsy folder. So again, I can confirm this by typing in pwd, and again it tells me I'm currently in the Etsy folder. Right now, if I want to navigate back to my user home directory, so I'm currently logged in as the user Alexis. If I want to go back to Alexis home directory, I can simply do this by typing home Alexis, right? That's very, very simple. But if I want to even make this shorter, I can use the command right over here. And again, I can hit enter and I can easily just navigate back to my home directory. So if I hit enter, you see, and I type in pwd, it's going to take me into my home directory right over here. All right, now that we have taken a look at directory navigation and moving around directories, let's take a look at creating files, copying, etc. All right, so I'm currently in my home directory. So let's talk about actually copying a file. Now, before we actually do that, we need to actually understand how to create files really, really quickly. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I'll go into my desktop here and I'll say cd desktop and I'm going to hit enter and I'm in my desktop now. All right, so if I wanted to create a file really easily, I can use touch. All right, so touch is a tool or a utility that allows you to easily create files. And again, let me show you a command that will help you understand what various commands and tools are. So if I want to know, I want information about a particular command, I can use the what is the what is command. So I can type in what is, and then I can say what is touch, and I can hit enter. And again, it tells me change the file timestamps. All right. Or so I can also say what is, let's see, what is nano, right? Nano is a text editor. So I can hit enter and it's going to tell her nano is another editor, etc. So it gives you information about a particular command or tool. All right. So I can use touch to create a file, remember, without any content, right? So I can say touch and I can say the file name is going to be test.txt. All right, I can hit enter, and if I list all the files in the desktop, you can see I have the test.txt file right over here. All right, so I can now direct data into this file. So again, I can use the echo command, and if we want to learn more about the echo command, I can type in what is, and I can say echo, and I can hit enter, and it's going to say display a line of text, right? So we can say echo Alexis is you can say Alexis is not cool, or something like that, and I can just hit enter, and again it will display on our terminal Alexis is not cool. All right, so it simply just displays a line of text. However, we can redirect this data into a particular file, and in this case we want to redirect this data into the test.txt file, right? So I can say echo, we can say hello, and we'll just use this simple string of text here, and I can say redirect this, and we use the greater than sign to redirect data to a particular file or to a particular command. So I can say test.txt, all right, and I hit enter, and now this file should have the words or the string hello. Now, if you want to easily just display the context or the content of a file, I can use the cat command. All right. Now, again, we can use the what is command to find out more about what the cat command does. So I can hit enter, and it's going to tell us it concatenates files and prints on the standard output. So again, it gives us the output of or the content. It prints out the content of a particular file. So again, I can say cat test.txt and I hit enter, and again it prints out what we had redirected into it. All right, so that is how to use the cat command. Now again, I can redirect a lot of text into this. So let's say I wanted to edit this this file, or I wanted to remove this file, which is a much better way of actually taking a look at file manipulation techniques. So again, I've shown you how to create a file, a very simple file redirecting output. we can also use cat to redirect output. So for example, if I wanted to redirect the contents of the password file, I can say cat etc password, and I'm using the relative directory you can see here. So the contents of the password file I want to redirect into the test.txt file. However, if I wanted to create another file, I could easily do it directly from here. I could say password.txt and I hit enter, and now we can display the contents of the password.txt file. And again, I can use the tab auto completion here, and I hit enter, and again it gives us all the content was redirected into this new txt file. Excellent. So now let's talk about actually removing files, copying them, etc. So if I wanted to remove this file here, the test.txt file, I use the rm command, which stands for remove, right? Again, you can use the what is command, and again use it. Again, it tells you this is used to remove files and directories. So let's talk about removing files first. All right, so we can say remove test.txt. All right, and again we use tab or auto completion, and I hit enter, and this will have removed the file over here, right? So that is essentially how to remove a file. Now if I want to remove a directory, I need to specify that it is a recursive action. But before we do that, let's talk about creating a directory first, because that's quite important as well. So if I want to create a directory, I use the make directory command, which is abbreviated into mkdir. So make directory, and I give it a name, so I can say test. All right, so this is going to create a folder or a directory called test. Right, once I hit enter and I list all the files here, you can see we have the test directory over here. So what I can do is I can navigate into it. I can copy files into it. So let's say I wanted to copy a file into this directory. So again, I can say let's say I wanted to say touch, or we can do the same thing. So I can say cat etc password, and I want to redirect this into a file called password.txt. And once that is done, I want to copy the file. So I want to say cp, that means copy, and I want to specify the file that I want to copy, which is going to be password.txt, and I want to copy that into the test directory. So I specify the directory I want to copy it into. In this case, the test directory is within the current working directory, so I don't have to specify a relative path. If I was specifying a relative path, I would use the / here. So I can just say test, and I hit enter. And now if I wanted to list the contents of the subdirectories recursively, I could say ls lr, and I hit enter, and you can see the contents of the test directory are password.txt. Excellent. So again, if I wanted to remove the password file, I can say remove password.txt. If I want to remove a directory, and the directory we want to remove is the test directory, I can say remove, and I use the capital R, which means recursively remove, and I say test, and I use the tab auto completion, and I hit enter. And now if we list the files in on the desktop, you can see we've gotten rid of all of these folders and files. All right, so now that we know how to actually create a directory, we can actually let me talk about removing a directory. I actually covered it with the remove command. However, we can also use another command called remove directory, which is abbreviated into rmdir. This will only allow you to remove a directory if you do not have any files within that directory, right? So let's say by the way, you can cycle through your previously used commands using your arrow keys. In this case, you can use the up arrow key. So let's say I wanted to redirect output of the password file into a file called password.txt, and I wanted to copy this file. Or let's actually talk about moving files. So if I wanted to move a file, I would say mv, and again you can use the what is command. So what is mv? So I can say mv, I want to move the password.txt file into the test directory here. I'm going to hit enter, and now you can see that the password file has been moved into the test directory. So again, I can list all the files within the test directory here, and that again, it tells me that we only have the password.txt file in here. So if I use the rmdir command, which means remove directory, and I say test, remove directory test, you can see it's going to tell me that this directory is not empty. So as a result, we need to specify remove recursively test, and I'm going to hit enter, and now it gets rid of the test directory for us. All right, so those are very, very simple ways of creating, copying, and of course deleting commands. Now, before we actually end this video, which I know has been going on for quite a while, I'm going to be covering file directory permissions later, but I want to talk about file manipulation a little bit more. So we've talked about using the cat command, redirecting output, using touch as well, moving files. Let's talk about renaming files. And also taking a look at the content of particular files here. So what I want to do now is let's actually take a look at actually renaming files. All right, so I'm going to again use the similar command that we had used. I'm just going to I'm going to redirect the output of the password file into a file called password.txt. And now if I wanted to rename the file password.txt into something else, I would use the mv command, right? So there isn't a command to rename files in Linux. You use the mv command, which means move. In this case, it's very simple. The syntax is you specify the file that you want to change the name of, which is going to be password.txt. And I changed the file name to, let's say, test.txt. And I hit enter, and now if we list all the files in the directory, you can see that it changes it to test.txt. And indeed, if we actually display the contents of the file, you can see that the content is preserved while we've changed the name, and we can also change the extension of the file. So I could say move test.txt into test. Let's say test.c. We can change the contents into a C file, right? And now if I say cat test.c, I can hit enter, and there you are. Now let's talk about editors, and then I'll talk about the content of the files before we actually end this video. So there are two standard editors that are pretty much the standard when it comes to Linux and working within the terminal. I'm not talking about graphical GUI based editors like gedit and stuff. So if I wanted to edit this file within the terminal, I have two options. I have nano. So again, I can use the whatis command and say what is nano. And again, that's an editor. And we have vim, which is pretty much the most popular option. And I'll be making independent videos on these editors and how to configure them. So again, if I want to edit the test.txt file, I can say nano test.c. Let's actually rename it back to test.txt, and we say nano test.txt, and we're going to hit enter. And that takes us into nano. Now exiting nano is very simple. Again, you can navigate around, make changes. Exiting it, we use Control and X, and that's it. Now with vim or vi, we simply type in vi or vim, and we say test.txt, hit enter. And again, with vim, the syntax is very different. If I want to make changes or I want to add content, I type in I to insert text. And again, I can play around with it. And once I'm done, I hit escape, and then I can write changes to this file, or I can quit and discard any changes by typing in Q and the exclamation mark, and I hit enter. And that's how to use the various editors. I'm not covering them to their fullest extent, and that's because we have various videos that will be actually focused on editors themselves. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover in this video. There was quite a bit. Hopefully you guys can actually learn a lot from this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comment section, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.